What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a man a freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a man a freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut. She says that I'm cool. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I believe in G.O.D. Don't believe in T.H.O.D. She keep playing me down. I'ma play her for fun.
Hi, this is John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Web of Deception. I'm joined in this episode by Jason Goodman. Jason, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate you taking time to help everybody understand the complexities of social engineering and the degree to which it appears the government is willing to go to prevent independent journalists from questioning these narratives. And so in this episode, we've got quite an action-packed thumbnail, very exciting. We've got, of course, General Flynn, who has played kind of one of the most central roles in all of this cover-up and, you know, the QAnon conspiracies. And I mean, he's been in the middle of this. I mean, he's been in prison. He was prosecuted.
Was he in prison? He was
prosecuted.
Convicted. I don't think he went to prison, though.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look into that. And then you've got one of my favorite characters, the Ginger Frankenstein. This is Patrick Byrne. Now, this is the former CEO of Overstock.com, supposedly. And Overstock.com.
Did you ever buy anything from that?
If I did, it was something, really
1,000 trash
mundane.
bags or something.
Yeah. You know what? If it was anything, it would probably have been linens. Like sheets or towels or something crappy.
Now you
like
can get that from. I should have included the pillow guy in. Well, all right. Anyway, there's more to discuss.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So he is the founder or was CEO of Overstock.com, which is acquired by Jeff Bezos and Amazon.
Huh.
And supposedly Patrick Byrne rides off into the sunset with his hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm sure we'll take a look at. Why then does he need $60,000 a year from some sort of 501(c)? Yeah, whatever the hell those things are. Yeah. Why does he need $60,000 a year if he got all that Overstock money? So we'll take a look at that. And then you got a couple of lovelies in here. I see one of them's got a gun. So of course, tell me more about that. Who's that with the flame red hair?
Yeah,
with a rifle. Who's this?
This Maria Butina. She is a Russian national who, again, the first time I heard about this person was George was talking about her. She had come to the United States from Russia she created some sort of gun rights, like activism group in Russia, like Right to Bear Arms, I think is what it was called, which is pretty weird for a woman, I think. Sorry if people think that's sexist, but it's just true. I think more men are into shooting guns than women. And she's Russian. And also, I don't know what the gun culture is like in Russia, but it was always sort of a very weird story with this Maria Butina because she becomes romantically involved with the Ginger Frankenstein. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she got arrested. Okay. And we'll get into some detail about her because she's pretty important. And just it's amazing, John, doing the thumbnails like this is a pretty regular exercise of me having to kind of just look around for articles about these people and stuff to find good pictures. And it sometimes takes me to obscure news about them. And it kind of just, I don't know, it gets me thinking about these people again. And I'm thinking of things and figuring out things. It's going to be cool when you go over to the sponsor exclusive segment. People can join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen. patreon.com/I am John Cullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribe star on Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth. We got a lot of details to go into, and I think I'm figuring something out about Maria Butina, but she eventually gets arrested and spends some time in jail. She's like, I mean, look at her. She's like a beauty pageant winner. They threw her in jail and then deported her. She's back in Russia now. She now is a member of the, what do you call the thing that's like Congress in Russia? The State Duma. She's an elected representative in Russia now.
Wow, I like it. Well, think about it. I mean, like you said, if there was a bunch of Russian guys who wanted to promote gun rights, you've met Russian guys, right? Who the hell wants to listen to? Nobody wants to listen to what they have to say. She shows up with the flame red hair, and everybody's like, "What was that? What was that? What do you have to say? That sounds very important. Tell us more. What was that? Okay, one more time. Tell us more." But
the Russian guys that I've met they're into chess and computer science and acrobatics and stuff. I have not ever
and wrestling. Wrestling and ripping
guns,
your ears off.
That seems like more of an American thing to me. I don't know though. I haven't been to Russia.
Well, what did Sofia Vergara say? What did Sofia Vergara say this past week?
I don't know.
She said, my assets are the reason that I have my career. Right. And she said, come on. She's like,
well, there's more to this Maria Butina. And I mean, we're definitely going to go into details. She gets involved with this guy, Paul, what's this guy's name? Paul Ericson, I think. Maybe you know this guy. And so, see, I don't really believe that she'd be into this guy. There was something going on there. Patrick, what's his name?
That's Brad Pitt's brother. That's Brad Pitt's brother right there. That's a good looking man.
But he's dishing on her, and she was kicked out. Mueller said she was a spy. All right,
so we're going to dig into this when we get to the patron-only portion of the show. I want to learn more about her because she sounds fascinating. She's got excellent trigger finger control, so we need to learn more about her. Now, you got another woman in the thumbnail about whom I'm not quite as fascinated. I'm a little bit more repulsed, and that's. She calls herself Tracy Beans. Is that right? And that's what she calls herself? Is it Beans? Like a beaner? Like she's Mexican, so she calls herself a beaner?
I don't know
what the hell
her
is
heritage is.
I think that's what it is. I think that's why she says it. Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of going from, Moscow to Suffolk County over here, but it's all right. This is Tracy Beans Diaz, and I first encountered her very early on in the George Webb saga. She started texting me, "God bless you" and stuff, and trying to be sort of like crowdsource helping. But I don't know. She's another one who is all about owning a narrative, and she was very upset that we were talking about Lucifer 2.0, and she was so concerned that we're being irresponsible, putting out information. Like, John, when you see somebody putting out a stupid video about the Las Vegas shooting or the COVID, anything, there's a lot of people who are social media influencers who have bigger platforms than you or I who talk about those topics. Do you get all indignant and start texting that person and tell them it's irresponsible that you're putting out a story that I disagree with? So she was like that. She became a maniac in the early days of, not a maniac, but she became directly involved and was texting me, emailing me in a way that in retrospect is, in my mind, unequivocally linked to George Webb. And there was also some drama where somebody revealed that George had paid her to write a story for him or something. I don't know the details of that, but there's been all kinds of nonsense with Tracy Beans. She published a series of videos where she said she was going to release some kind of evidence that was going to show that I was involved in Mossad. George basically showed up, and in the first 10 minutes of me conducting an interview with him, he just casually drops, "Oh, we're just two Jewish guys having a conversation." And I thought to myself, first of all, that's a weird thing to bring up, even if it's true. And second of all, this guy's not Jewish. What the hell? He's 6'8". What the hell are you talking about? So I was just sort of what? And let it go. But then George started weaving this idiotic narrative that he's somehow involved with Mossad. I've never seen any evidence other than his testimony that that is the case. But it led to this whole, oh, well, Jason's Jewish, so he's Mossad. And again, when we see what's happening now with all this unrest between Israel, Palestine, I feel like these social engineers, they almost had like a laundry list of here's what we want to do. And we're going to go through step one. We need to introduce the public to the concept of a disinformation governance board. And to do that, we're going to stage an idiotic hoax where George is going to tell Jason that there's radiological material going on the Maersk Memphis, and Tracy Beans will get involved saying that George and Jason are irresponsible, spreading this kind of news, and this is all going to become a cacophony of public outcry.
So she was involved that early. She stuck her nose into the Charleston scenario.
Absolutely.
Okay.
She was there saying,
that.
Jason and George had a rough day today. They put out some information. Because what they want to do is they want things to go viral, right? So let me rephrase.
They're creating the tornado.
It's not necessarily that they want things to go viral. They want to be able to tamp down a story they don't like Hunter Biden's laptop. They want to tell you that's Russian disinformation, amplify the disinformation part, tamp down the Hunter Biden laptop part. They just want to sell you whatever narrative they want to sell. So they know they're going to stage this hoax. This is my allegation. They know they're going to stage a hoax in the port of Charleston, and they have half a dozen, stupid and fake social media influencers ready to do stories about how dumb Jason and George are. Now we've got the New York Times talking about it. We've got CNN talking about it. We've got alt news talking about it. That becomes a wave that convinces the public this is astroturfing. It is a fake grassroots movement that's intended to make the unsuspecting public believe that, look at all this terrible stuff Jason is doing, and George says they're Mossad, and Tracy's going to come out with all this evidence. But she never came out with any evidence. She never apologized.
All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this concept for a second, because this is an important idea. A couple weeks ago, you shared with the audience what a limited hangout was as far as the formal definition of it. And I learned something. I thought it was something it wasn't. I thought a limited hangout was something else. And when you explained to us, no, here's what it really, here's the definition of it, I learned something. And I think what you're explaining now is something similar, where you're talking about multiple, whether they're UCOs from the FBI or GEC contractors, or, I don't know, right? I can't tell you exactly where these guys are getting the money from. But let's just call them IC, intelligence community contractors or assets.
Absolutely.
That, as you said, it's almost like they can tamp down by ignoring or ridiculing certain findings or stories. And then they can amplify other stories because there's 30 or 40 of them working together.
More than that.
And all right. So let's just start with that. Let's say that's a conservative estimate. Let's say we got third.
Right.
You got third compared to you you and me, you and Charles,
But
you
let's
and
back
Lee.
up. Let's back up. Because if anybody missed that show, a limited hangout is an intelligence tactic where a certain amount of truthful information is offered to gain a target's trust. And then once you have that trust, you lie to them strategically to achieve a goal. Now, think about this, John. This is like if you hired a private chef. You could hire any number of private chefs. You could hire a catering company. They could contract out to private chefs, whatever. They're going to have recipes, right? You say, hey, I want to make a dinner. The chef has a recipe for, French dressing and souffle and a certain type of sauce and meringue and whatever. So all the chefs are going to have access to these different recipes. They'll prepare them differently and include them in different dishes and stuff like that. But these are almost like the recipes of an intelligence operative, and the people that we're dealing with are using different combinations of these things to achieve their goals. So yes, Tracy Beans overall is a limited hangout in that she's talking about things and sharing a certain amount of truthful information about things that are intended to attract people's attention and get them to trust her, so that when she introduces a topic, whether it's QAnon or Jason is Mossad or whatever it is that she's talking about, if she's cultivated an audience of people who listen to her and believe what she says, a certain number of them are likely to believe what she says about whatever they want her to say.
And I think this is George Webb's modus operandi. This is his DNA. This is what he's all about. Is he's telling you 90% or 85% truthdoms, and when he weaves in one of his wacky pieces of the story, one of the wacky threads, like the Macha Benassi piece, it's like, what? But the rest of the world doesn't pick up on that's a wacky thread, because because Wuhan games are real. They actually took place. There were 100,000 people there, right? All the countries really did show up. They really did talk about it in Congress. And Macha Benassi, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And nobody has the stones to confront him and say, hey, Mr. 6'8", what the hell are you talking about? Macha Benassi brought it with her in the bicycle. Shut the hell. It's like, it's ridiculous. And then the fact that the leprechaun picks up the story for CNN, obviously that guy couldn't get a real job anywhere other than Patrick's Pub. I mean, come on.
So wait. So let's talk about more recipes, because we spoke about a limited hangout. So we take a little bit of limited hangout, drop that into the stew. Now we have some, trusted entities who, if they tell you things, you're going to believe them. By the way, the Ginger Frankenstein did that too. He goes on TV and he tells you this big story where he's like, hey, I'm coming out, I'm going to sacrifice my CEO position at Overstock to tell you this crazy story. And subliminally, what he's doing is he's convincing you, hey, this wooden box I'm about to saw in half, it's completely solid. Why would I put a woman in there and saw it in half if, he's giving up? There's some credibility lent to
personal sacrifice. Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Look at the personal sacrifice that General Mike Flynn put himself through.
Exactly. He's going on trial. He's losing his house. But now these guys are making multi-millions, perhaps more than they ever would have. And there's a lot of evidence in the public domain to suggest that both of them are liars who are involved in a money laundering operation. And when I asked them about that, they didn't say, no, Jason, you're incorrect. You're crazy. You don't know how to look at a 990. They blocked me. They insulted me. They attempted to destroy my social media accounts. And so that behavior, that public behavior, it causes me to believe that these guys are involved in fifth generational warfare. And, we've titled today's episode to include fifth generational warfare. We should explain to people exactly what that is. And again, I'm not a graduate of a war college. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert in this, but from reading public domain information, my understanding is the first generation of warfare was when a caveman picked up a rock, hit another dude on the head, took his food, took his cave, took his wife. That's first gen. Second gen was guns, arrows, that kind of stuff. Third gen, airplanes, bombs, munitions, machine guns, etc. Fourth gen, biological, chemical, nuclear. Fifth gen is cyber. Everything happening in the information space over the internet, whether it's social media, hacking, elections, all of this. And so it goes to, because computers have so permeated our lives and social media has become such an important way by which we communicate. I mean, you take, for example, John, you and I, over the 7 years that we've been working together, you're one of my closest associates and friends. Yet the amount of time we've spent in person together is less than probably 2 days or something like that. And in a traditional sense, if we were working in an office or whatever for 7 years, we spend a lot of time together, and here we have this cyber relationship. So the extent to which this type of fifth generational warfare can become some sort of barrier to that or thwart our ability to do business or to communicate effectively in cyberspace, I allege that each of these people are critical players in this war on we the people.
Well, and in fact, now it's becoming even more clear how important this aspect is, because television is becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching the Emmy Awards. Nobody's watching the Oscars. Movies, it's like everything is blue screen now. Everything's green screen. Nobody, it's like,
Well,
if
on
you're
the
an
phone,
adult.
it's all young people coming up now are just watching TikTok.
So therefore, if they've lost control of the narrative because ABC, NBC News has lost their credibility, then they know that, look what's happening. Everybody's going to the internet, and they're going to watch Alex Jones now for news. They're going to watch Shepard Ambellis now for news. We're losing the narrative real quick. And Jason is bringing Senator Marsha Blackburn on the show. He's got Carter Page on the show. We have got to figure out a way to stop this, because next thing you know, you're going to have Dershowitz. Oh, wait a second. You had Dershowitz.
Well, see,
dude, this team is here to stop
let me
what
put a
you're
slightly
doing.
finer point on what you're saying, because you're right. But it's not just that those guests will agree to come on the show. It's that they don't have control over what it is that I'm going to say to them. Like Dershowitz, for whatever reason, came on the show, but I asked him a bunch of stuff that they obviously didn't like, because the system convulsed after that. It kicked my YouTube channel out. Another reason why it's important for people to follow on Odyssey.
Well,
but then they made all those
questions.
videos to focus on something irrelevant that Dershowitz said, to keep people away from the stuff he said about the Rothschilds, the Clintons, and Epstein.
That's them wrestling the narrative back away from you, who created the content, and saying, no, let's focus on this sentence between these two. And it's like, what? So, as you said earlier, there are people who are trying to wrestle, whether it's the Las Vegas shooting or the COVID narratives, or, whatever it might be, the thing about influenza disappearing, we got everybody's putting their 2 cents in about that, or this stuff. And I think that whoever's behind this, again, whether it's FBI, whether it's GEC, whether it's this whole IC integrated operation, who the hell knows, I think they saw you and what you were doing as a threat. And each time you have another one of these guests on, it's further validation for them that, we were on the right track here. And it still has potential to really hurt them, especially with the work we're doing now. So you look at somebody like the Ginger Frankenstein, supposedly sold Overstock for, whatever, clears $100 million. You talk about the ability to throw money here and there and fund this, and I'll pay for you to go to that conference. There you go. So can you explain to people what a cutout is? So people have heard this term, a cutout, as we've talked about. What is the formal definition? What is a cutout? So I think I know what it is.
I allege.
Okay, what is a cutout? All right, so what is a cutout?
It's essentially like, if I took you to the set of Amazing Spider-Man, it's a front, right? It looks like New York City when you photograph it through a camera and you have actors jumping around in front of it. When you come with me to the back lot at Universal Studios, we walk behind it and it's just a facade being held up by a 2x4. It's a front. Oh. So what I'm alleging is a company like, not necessarily Overstock.com, but some company that you take, what we're alleging is that Patrick Byrne is a UCO. Let's call him an FBI UCO. He could be something else, but he told us he was working with Peter Strzok. So they need money to fund certain things. Let's say, and I'm not saying this is it, but let's say Maria Butina is being cultivated as a spy, and they want maybe the FBI to send her back to Russia to spy on Russia on behalf of the United States. So they say, Patrick, we want you to cultivate this asset. You're going to pose as a billionaire. We're going to give you this house in Utah. Take her skiing. Take her to the gun show. buy her dinner at Nobu. The guy needs money to pose as a billionaire if he's an FBI UCO who's trying to bang hot models and get them to do whatever it is they're trying to get them to do. To reiterate, I am not saying that this is what happened. I am giving a hypothetical example to provide our audience with definitions of some terms of tradecraft as I've come to understand them from the world of espionage. And it is interesting to observe that Miss Butina was eventually arrested and kicked out of the United States, and now she is in the Russian State Duma. So if you wanted to plant a spy over there, I don't know.
Nicely done.
Maybe she is, right? It seems like a way to do it.
We only have a couple more minutes. We only have maybe 2-3 more minutes before we have to go to the patron-only portion where we're going to dig in further. But we also have Roger Stone in the thumbnail. And speaking of people that have supposedly made these major personal sacrifices. So each one of the people here, Tracy Bean's house burned down.
Right.
Right. So everybody here has got their personal sacrifice story. I remember listening to Donald Trump talking about how they ruined General Flynn's life and so he fell for it. So then you've got Stone, Roger Stone, right? Goes all the way back to Nixon, right? I mean, he goes back, right? Right? He goes way back.
Well, he's an admitted political operative.
He's been there forever. They show up at his house at 5:30 in the morning with AR-15s drawn, rifles.
But who? Wait a
arrest
second.
Roger Stone?
Yeah, we know his
dandy,
story.
the dandy.
But let's just hang on for a second. Who got maybe the worst and certainly the first brunt of the Trump-Russia kind of, stuffed in jail and kicked around? You don't remember?
I don't know. Who?
Paul Manafort?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Paul Manafort. Okay. I'll
remember? He was this Sopranos dapper dude. And then after going to jail, he's sort of like gray hair and all that. But he, I think, spent more time in solitary confinement than anybody else from Trump world there. And it used to be Stone, Manafort, and Black, I think, was their political operative firm. I'm not saying Roger Stone set this guy up, but it's not like they're hanging out doing shows together on InfoWars. I don't know if they're still friends. And they were partners. The reason I put Roger Stone in the thumbnail is because I couldn't find the video. I may well have it archived somewhere. Or actually, I don't think George did a video of it. He did videos talking about it. At one point, he had personally met with Roger Stone. And I forget what they spoke about exactly, but Roger Stone, he also met with Robert David Steele. And remember, Queen Tut was pretty super duper fascinated by that. They were at some steak restaurant together, and I had asked Roger Stone about it. And he confirmed that he did meet with Robert David Steele. Here it is. Yeah. Jason Goodman.
Now, did you ever meet? Yeah, so you meet with Roger Stone.
Yeah.
Dr. Corsi. Now, where is this at the
we can
steakhouse?
play
You
this
guys having
because
dinner?
it's my video. Let's play this.
Right. Okay.
Briefly, two absolute titans in the world of independent media. I'm here with Jerome Corsi and Roger Stone. Now, Roger, there are people who are spreading fake news, and I certainly don't want to ask you to disparage any of your colleagues, but we all know that you are acquainted with Robert David Steele, and there's a photograph of you with Robert David Steele standing under a portrait of, is it Theodore Roosevelt?
Yes, it's at P.J. Clark's restaurant here in Washington, D.C., and the picture is 100% authentic. We had a very pleasant dinner together, and we talked, global strategy.
Yes, and of course my expertise in digital photography told me that, but I always like to get first-hand information from the source. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your writing and everything that you do. Confirmed. Thank you, Roger.
So he confirms in that video that it was him in the picture with Robert David Steele. And he and I did not talk about what they discussed at that dinner. But anyway, we'll get into those details and everything.
All right, All right, but for the audience
'Cause we're
who
almost out of
didn't
time.
see the show on the Robert David Steele is former Home
CIA,
Depot.
according to him.
Oh, CIA, former
But
CIA.
there's one more thing, though, that I want to let everybody know that we're going to talk about during the next part,
Okay.
because we touched on this and it's important. Dershowitz and what you were saying about them being interested. Like, remember this heated vaccine debate between Robert
of
Kennedy
course.
Jr.?
Yes.
That was hosted by Patrick Bet-David. I'm going to talk to everybody about how this came down, how Patrick Bet-David stole my material, lied to me. It's interesting that RFK is in this video, but this was part of this whole effort to sort of smooth over what Dershowitz did by putting his foot in his mouth. And I just found out now that they've got it on IMDb. I mean, they've made a huge deal out of this. Over 1 million people have watched this. I mean, you know, if I was
didn't know
the
this.
person who wrote the story that a movie was based on that they put out with big actors and got 1 million people to watch it or something, you know, there's a whole thing going on there. But we'll talk about it during the
Very interesting.
sponsor segment.
All right. Well, thank you very much. For those of you who are not yet patrons, please consider sponsoring Jason over at odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth or at Substack/crowdsourcethetruth or at patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or at subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And if you're not yet sponsoring my work, shame on you. Patreon.com, I am John Cullen. Subscribestar.com, I am John Cullen. This has been Web of Deception, episode number 12 with the Ginger Frankenstein. Thanks for joining. I'm John Cullen.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a man a freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a man a freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut. She says that I'm cool. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I believe in G.O.D. Don't believe in T.H.O.D. She keep playing me down. I'ma play her for fun. Don't really know my mental. Let me give you the picture like stencil. Falling out in the drought. No flow rain was pouring down. See that pain was all around. See my mom was kinda loud. Didn't know which way to turn. Flow was cool, but I still felt burned. Energy up, people feel my surge. I'ma kill everything like this burn. What you know about rolling